Stephanie Washer again with 3-3 ports and sockets from the Cengage MindTap Network Plus Guide to Networks and the RVC Network Essentials course. So we're going to get into ports and sockets, and they reside at both the network layer and the transport layer. And so the ports are actually at the transport layer, the socket, because it provides both the IP address and the port number. That's why it's at both of the layers. So the port number, whenever you're communicating, I'm just going to kind of go down here, and we are going to talk about ports and protocols, their application encryption, encrypted alternatives, the use and purpose of network services, and then just kind of contrasting any features. So the port number is a process. So when you're communicating on the network, we're using Telnet as an example. So when you're communicating on the network, a port is assigned to a process. So say, for example, here we're using Telnet. We've got port 23. There are what are called well-known ports, which we'll go over in a second. And port 23, Telnet happens to be one of those. So that port number is assigned a process number, and it's kind of like they use the example of it's like apartment number within a building. So they go back to that postal service thing. And when you have your IP address with that port number, it makes the socket. So that socket consists of both the IP address and the service that you're using. So for example, here it's 10.43.3.87, and we're using Telnet, and Telnet is a well-known port of 23. And we're not going to be using Telnet because it puts everything in plain text, but this is good for example purposes. So we're using this together. These two together are a socket. So our port number 23 and our IP address, IPv4 address, are linked together with a colon in between. So really what it's doing is it's opening up a virtual circuit or a virtual connection between the server and the client. And when that session is completed or done, that socket is closed. So here are the well-known port numbers. And we got 0 to 1023. So these are assigned by IANA. And so they're they're well known. And they are items that you're going to need to know for the certification exam, whether you're taking the Net Plus, A Plus, or any Cisco exams, Security Plus, you'll need to know those well-known ports. There are also registered ports, and they go from 1024 to 49151, and those are just used temporarily by processes for non-standard assignments. This just increases security. And again, default assignment of these must be registered with IANA. And then we have dynamic and private ports. So these are above 49152, and they're open. They're unrestricted use, so they're open for use without any restrictions. And so you can have a dynamic port number or you can have a private port number. So dynamic is assigned by the client or server. Private is assigned by the network administrator. So these are different from well-known port numbers. So here's the common or well-known port numbers. I'm going to open up the whole thing, and it always makes my screen look weird. But so here we go. Here's all of them. We've got FTP. So we've got FTP data versus FTP, SSH. We've got our Telnet. We've got DHCP. So you can see all the different ones. HTTP is another one. HTTPS 443 is another. So, we've got so many different well-known ports, and they're all important to know. And I don't have any tips on how to memorize those. The only one that I always memorize is Telnet because I remember Michael Jordan's number, or some people are LeBron fans, so depending on that, and I always just think of Telnet when I think of Michael Jordan, and that's how I remember that one. We also have, we have many different protocols, and some of them we've talked about, so we'll just kind of go through all of the different ones that are kind of important or commonly used. So we have trivial file transfer protocol, TFTP. And so this is just, we use a lot and when we're requesting files from other computers or on a local network, so we use this one a lot. And you can go in and you can see TFTP is 69. It's a UDP So it's not a TCP protocol, it's a UDP. And FTP normally uses TCP, so there's a difference there. NTP is Network Time Protocol. I'm not going to go into UDP, TCP right now. We'll do that in a different one. Network Time Protocol, just synchronizing all your clocks. And so we use NTP to synchronize our clocks on our system. LDAP, this one, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or we have LDAP over SSL. And so we've got the encryption version. And again, most of these we're going to learn later as well, but this is just accessing network-based directories. So LDAP is, we'll use that for single sign-on and Active Directory information. SMB, Server Message Block. This is from the beginning of time with Windows OS, and it uses a version of SMB in its Samba software, and so it can share files with other operating systems, including Windows. So Unix just playing nice with it with Windows. Syslog, you got Linux or Unix standard for storing and processing messages or events on a system. So syslog stands for system log. SQLnet or Oracle services used by the Oracle database. And most of the stuff we'll go over again, but it's good to kind of like touch on these here, here and kind of know which ones are important ones. But for example purposes, and just from teaching Cisco networking and Network Plus for many, many years, we do use DHCP a lot. We use, some of these ports to know are really good. And then when you're going into cybersecurity, any type, taking the Security Plus, the well-known ports, if you're looking through and you're kind of using Wireshark or any kind of packet sniffer, you'll want to know those well-known ports so that you can grab out that information, depending, whether it's a web info. If you see somebody using Telnet, you can grab that info and get their password right away, things like that. So that is the very quick version of ports and sockets. The next section is domain names and DNS, and we will go over that